So I'll tell you a little story. When I was in Israel just recently, we went to the Nova site, and there they had a display. I don't know what the word would be, but it was one of the commanders, one of the first commanders from the IDF, who went into the Gaza Strip to try and rescue the Israelis, Jews, and he died. And they were writing a Sefer Torah in his memory, and they had a big display. The final quote that he had, that we have recorded, that he's telling his troops as they're going into the Gaza Strip. It's a fantastic quote. I have it. I took a picture of it. If anyone would like it, just let me know. I'll post it. And but it's a phenomenal quote. And he says there, "What an honor it is to fight for the Jewish people." And then he says, "We're going in. It's going to be very dangerous, but don't forget to have fun."
Now that's a leader. That is a true leader.
That's it. So you see, that's what we forget, to have fun. Right? There's a famous, it's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, where one of the rabbis is meeting soldiers coming back from the front. And he says to them, "You're coming back from a small war, and you're about to enter a big war."
Mm-hmm. With your Yetzer Hara.
You think fighting the Nazis or fighting Hamas is a big war? No. Fighting your day-to-day challenges, that's the big war. Right? That's where you need to have fun. Right? That's where the battle is. It's not so easy. Right? There's not such an easy battle. But that's where the fun, and then don't forget to have fun. As Rav Noach used to be on our case all the time. It says that Yaakov, when Yaakov went to visit Har HaBayis, the Temple Mount, which is appropriate Truma, when Parsha Truma, so he wakes up after he has the dream, and he says, "How awesome is this place? It is God's home. How holy it is. And I didn't know it." Right? So Rashi says, and if he had known, what would he have done? Right? So what does he say? What would he have done differently?
He would have stayed up.
He says he wouldn't have slept.
Right.
So what do you mean he wouldn't have slept? The whole point was for him to sleep. God made the sun set quickly so that he would go to sleep there. If he doesn't sleep, he doesn't get the dream. Doesn't get the dream, we don't get the famous story of Jacob's ladder.
That's excellent point. So why did he want to stay up?
What's that? Exactly? Why? Right? You understand? So you see, one day you're going to be looking back at this moment, and you're going to see that everything that's going on is the hand of God.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to say, "I was sleeping." And what would you have done if you weren't sleeping, if you'd known it was the hand of God?
You would have been so energized you couldn't sleep.
Energized and having fun. Exactly. Right? This is the fun. This is the Almighty is putting us through the challenges. This is Disneyland on steroids. This is roller coasters. This is the exciting stuff. We're making decisions, we're faced with challenges, we've all got our problems. If we don't have problems, we've got children's problems, neighbors' problems, we've got well problems, we've got government problems. You understand? Right? This is the game of life. Right? How awesome is this place? And I didn't know. I was sleeping. Not that he wouldn't go to sleep, he just wasn't having fun. Making
That's what he's
sense?
saying? That he's not having fun being at Har HaMoriah?
He's not having fun. That's right. Not the fun like, New Year's Eve, rah, rah, rah fun, but the fun of like, living a thrilling life. You're going into the battle.
Yeah, I'd like to put the battle gear down for a little bit.
That's what we all say. That's what we all say. The reason we say that is because we're not having fun. We're having fun. You just keep going. You're all energized.
Rabbi, perhaps you should define the word fun. What does that
That's a
mean,
good-
having fun?
that-
Because there's
that's
always a Torah definition and a different world definition.
right. That's true. That's a very good question. Right. It's a very good question. What's her name? Brown. Brene Brown. She says fun is anything that. Now this is not the Torah definition. Anything that doesn't have a point. Right.
Fun is
Like,
anything that does not have a point.
like you're playing basketball. It's fun. It doesn't have a point to it.
That doesn't sound very Torah, Rabbi.
That's what I said. It's not very Torah. It's not very Torah, right? But is that we all go watch? I don't say we all find fun, watching James Bond movies and things like that. Right, exciting stuff. They don't make movies of watching grass grow, right? Water boiling. Right? What's fun is exciting stuff, right? Near death, missing, challenges and figuring it out and growing and listening and that's the fun. What we think is fun is we're living in America. So, Rav always used to say the definition of decadence. They say Americans are decadent, right? The opposite of pain is what?
It's comfort.
Comfort. Right, very good. You guys learn well. Right, it's comfort.
It only took us, like 15 years learning with you?
Yeah. Don't worry, Rav used to drill it into our heads, right? Right? In America, they think the opposite of pain is pleasure. It's not. You go into a nursing home and you see it. They're not having fun. They've got no pain. Or go into a condominium. Right? They've liquidated all their assets, and now they've got nothing to worry about except how much is in the all-you-can-eat salad. Right? Do they have enough cucumbers? That's all they have to worry about. They drive everybody crazy because this is the fun, and the Almighty is always pushing us to the next level. The Talmud says if you don't have any surahs in the last 40 days, it's because you're in big trouble.
Then I should consider myself very fortunate and blessed.
That's it. That's it. All right, we're going to start with, remember, put down any sharp objects. Welcome to this week's Parsha, mind-boggling insights into the Parsha. We haven't even started the Parsha. Mind-boggling concepts, and although we did talk about the Harabai, so that kind of ties in. Remember to put down any sharp objects and don't get too close to the microphone. We don't want to spread any of those diseases. We're going to start with a little movie night.
Do you both still know God in the same way today as you did before October 7, 2023?
It's such a poignant question because I feel like I know God so much better. And I think everybody has an idea of God. I think everybody's idea of God is very personal and very different, even if we think we are all on the same page in our little clusters of belief systems or brands of Judaism. But I think it's, for me, and this will probably sound strange, I haven't said it to anyone, I don't think, except for John, but I actually feel that the closest that I've ever come to really feeling God, is when Hirsch was killed.
How is that?
I don't know. It felt so unbelievable that it could only be from God. And I heard Hirsch's principal from his high school, Rabbi Shlomi Danino, who's just a beautifully knowledgeable rabbi at this school for 900 Orthodox boys in Jerusalem. He spoke recently and was saying one of the interpretations about the book of Job that is part of, in the Jewish Bible, we have this book about a man who was supposedly a good man, and all of these terrible tragedies befell him. He lost his wife, he lost his children, all of them. He suffered a terrible disease. And what Rabbi Danino was explaining was that there's an interpretation where Job says to one of his friends, I'm not a saint, but I'm not a terrible person. So I know this is not a punishment. And I know this is from God. And I know I don't understand it. But I know that it's from God. And that's really how I feel. I really feel that. I'm not a saint, but I'm not a horrible person. And I know this is not a punishment. And certainly Hirsch was not a saint nor a horrible person. And I know it's not a punishment. And I know it's part of this. I grew up in Chicago, and my mother was very determined to make me a cultured person. And so she would drag me to the Chicago Art Institute all the time and force me to look at all of this art. And there's this famous painting by George Seurat, A Sunday on the Island of La Granja. It's the pointillist masterpiece that if you look at it very closely, it doesn't make any sense. It's just a bunch of dots and chaos and blurriness. And when you step back, then you see this glorious tapestry of gorgeousness. But when you're very close and in it, you don't see it. And I really believe, and maybe this is a survival tactic, maybe it's, the lies we tell ourselves to keep ourselves okay, but I believe that there is a grand tapestry. And I don't have the hubris to say that I understand the tapestry, but I'm faithful that it's there. And that's why I think that this indescribable blow that we're learning how to digest is also in some way a kiss from God.
John, how do you feel about God now versus before October 7, 2023?
Can you hear us?
You're
We
on
can't
mute.
hear you.
You're on mute,
Sorry,
Rabbi.
I'm muted. Yeah. So powerful stuff.
Wow.
You know what?
What is his answer? Did they don't mention his answer? I'm very curious if it's the same as his wife's.
Yeah, I don't. That's all I have. I'm sure if you did a search, you could find the whole interview. But the point is, you don't want to have to go through, God forbid, stuff like that to find things that are just as true in our lives today. That's what we're that's what we're covering tonight. Parsha Truma. We're on a roll. First, we had Yisro, which was the giving of the Ten Commandments. The rabbis say it's like a principle. You start off with the principles, the Ten Commandments. You build into Mishpatim, the laws, the practices, the day-to-day details. But then you get to Truma. See, so many people are caught up in the details. They're lost in the weeds. and they forget the truma. They forget the whole point of it all. What we're trying to do, enjoying life. They just get caught up in so many people, so many aspects of our lives. So many people emphasize the do's and the don'ts of Jewish life, and it's important to deal with all this stuff in a healthy way. But we forget the whole point. Parsha Truma, this week's Parsha. We're going back to the Garden of Eden. This is a point that Rabbi Foreman makes. What was guarding the Garden of Eden?
The swords.
The short swords by the cherubs, right? And on the tent of the cherubs show up in 3 places in the Mishkan. Do you know where?
The Aron.
The Aron, right? They're built into the Aron, onto the roof of the lid of the Aron. It's on the tent of the ceiling. What?
I didn't know there were 3 places that it shows up in the Mishkan. I thought it was just one.
No, they're embroidered into the rooftop.
The covering of the Kodesh Kadoshim?
Right, and they're also in the paroches. They're on the division between the Aron, which is in the Kodesh Kadoshim, and the rest of the Mishkan. Right. So this is where the Garden of Eden is, but they don't have swords.
Oh, so they're not trying to prevent you.
You're not right. You just gotta walk in. This is where it is. Now, where were the cherubs placed in the Garden of Eden? To the east of Eden. Right? Is it to the east of Eden? The Aron, which is the core of the whole Mishkan, the centerpiece. There are 3 courtyards, 3 stages. The Aron is in the west of the Mishkan.
So the opposite side.
The cherubs are at the east the east end of the Garden of Eden, right? So the Aron is to the west of that, right? In other words, we're going back into the Garden of Eden.
Oh, sort of. You went past the eastern gates where the cherubs with the swords are, and now you're in the western part.
That's right. So we're going back into the Garden of Eden, right?
You're making a very interesting point. I don't know if you realize it, that you're basically saying you really can't be happy without the Mishkan.
That's 100%. 100%. That's the whole point. That's what we're going for. You see,
this having fun business, you can't really have fun unless you feel God's presence in the world.
Well, that's true, but if you're fighting for God's presence, you'll feel God's presence. You see, the Jews that founded the state of Israel, all the Aliyahs in the 1800s, 1900s, late 1800s, all the way through to 1948, and past, right, left Europe because Europe was rife with abject poverty. It was a tough place. Remember Fiddler on the Roof? Right? They romanticized it, but it was rough. And what did they do? They go to the land of Israel, which was worse. They had malaria. They had abject poverty like crazy. They also had to deal with marauding Arabs that would come kill them. It was worse, but they were happy. Why?
Because they were building up the country.
Yeah, they weren't building up the country. They were building the promised land.
Oh, the promised land.
Right. Even the secular Zionist, anti-religious communists had this vision: we're building the promised land. You follow?
Did they have the Torah perspective of the promised land, or just the promised land?
They had some aspect of it, yes, because it didn't just pop out of a bar of soap
Right.
in Theodore Herzl's bathtub, right? It's been in the air for 3,500 years, well, 2,000 years of the diaspora. So he just hooked into it in the same way that communism hooked into some other kind of concept that was floating around in the world. But nevertheless, he grabbed hold of this idea, and it resounded in the Jewish people. And when you're fighting for something meaningful, then all the problems in the world don't bother you anymore. You see, why do we break a glass under the chuppah?
Because we shouldn't deceive ourselves that we're so happy, or that we can be so happy without the Beis Hamikdash and without God's presence truly being felt in the world.
Yes, that's a real downer for a wedding night. You think you're enjoying yourselves? You're not enjoying yourselves, right? We sing all these songs, the Chassan, Simcha Chassan V'Kala, right?
Then why do we break it?
So why do we break it? We're telling you a message that it's not problems that destroy marriages, and it's not problems that destroy people's lives. It's a lack of reason to tolerate them.
What?
Which word are you having a problem with?
Lack of a reason to tolerate them? To tolerate what?
You see, when you're in Europe in 1865, in a little shtetl with abject poverty, and you say, why am I putting up with this life? Right? Now, for most of Europe, that wasn't a problem, because the non-Jews next door were also living like that. Right? But when enlightenment hit, and education hit, and industrial revolution hit, and the non-Jews next door, the town across the street, were living a, so to speak, what seemed to be a civilized life, soon to be dispelled by the Second World War. But nevertheless, when you look at them and they seem to be doing well, and we're living in this abject poverty, why are we putting up with this? So, as prior to that, Jews were living a better life. But with the Industrial Revolution, things changed. So when you don't feel like you have a reason to put up with it, they lost their love for Torah. So to go to the land of Israel and build the promised land was problems. But they're fine with that because they have a bigger dream. You follow? That's why we break a cup under the chuppah.
We break the cup in the chuppah. Wait. Oh, you're causing the brain to explode again. We're breaking a cup under the chuppah to remind us of what?
To tell you.
Problems being what?
Dedicate your marriage to rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash, and all the problems will disappear.
I don't think that's the reason most people get married. You see, they should say that when they're doing the whole blessings and the whole everything. You guys are getting married for building the Beit HaMikdash. That's not how people go into the wedding ceremony.
Listen, you're asking me like what why people don't mention it. I don't know. That's another question. I tell people this. When I do weddings, I tell them that.
Interesting. Okay.
But nevertheless, right? That's the reason we break a glass under the chuppah, because we're telling you, if you spend your life, in other words, you get married. Let's say you get married in 1939, right, in England. You see this movie, Just One Life, with this guy Harry Winton, who went over to Europe to save Jews. There were lots of people did this. Schindler's List, right? You get married in 1939, and you immediately sign up to go and pull Jews out of Auschwitz.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All your problems would disappear all the things that bother you would disappear. It's not the problems that we have. See, thinking that I'm going to be happy by not having the problems I have is decadence. You're not going to be happy. You're going to be happy when you have a goal that's big enough that these problems don't matter anymore. You see, we all understand this when we see that video of Hirsch's mother. Like, what am I complaining about? But you see, that line is not very helpful. You hear it all the time. You know, you go see people are suffering all kinds of things. You say, you know, and you're complaining about what? And it's true, but it doesn't help. What does help is to realize that if you had a goal big enough, then it wouldn't bother you. You could identify with Hirsch's mother if you had a goal big enough. But just to think that I shouldn't complain because doesn't got, you know, I heard a great story. Who was telling me? I forget who told me the story, but it was one of the rabbis in England, and he was leading a mission to take these kids to see the camps in Europe, right? And the day before he leaves, his house was robbed, and they took everything, including his database of every picture he has of his whole family. And it's all gone. They lost everything, not a sausage. And he's really upset because he has no say. This is a long time ago. He didn't have any backups or anything. Or this was the backup. He didn't have anything. Didn't have any pictures of his kids or anything. When they were young, nothing. So he gets to Auschwitz. He's really upset. He gets to Auschwitz, and they have one of these speakers who was a survivor. And she's an older lady, and she's talking about how the Nazis came when they took her husband and her children. And all she's got left from those people, from her husband and her children, is a picture. And it dawns on him, I'm complaining because I have kids and no pictures, and she's complaining that she's got no kids and just got a picture. Which would I rather have? And that's very powerful and true and meaningful for him. It doesn't help us. You're not going to solve your, and this is why you're telling your children they're starving kids in Africa. It's not going to do anything. I'm not saying you shouldn't say
that to my kids. I don't know why people do that. I don't
exactly
say that to my kids. What are you saying when you say that?
Right, exactly.
They've never seen the kids in Africa. They don't understand that kind of hunger. Make
right.
them hungry, and then they'll understand. What's the problem here?
Exactly. There you got it. Right. So the same thing with us. What does get us, what will get us, is have a bigger mission. If you had a big enough mission, all your problems would disappear. And if you don't have a big enough mission, then your problems are going to appear. You see that?
Some of us are in between missions.
Well, that's true. But you see, that's the world. Right? Israel was eating itself alive. And God said, okay, you need a bigger mission. Right before October the 7th. America, the same thing. And then you got, the Twin Towers came down. And that gave us a mission. You need a mission. You don't have a mission. It's very, very difficult. The problems just get worse and worse and worse. Now, this really relates back now to the Garden of Eden. We were thrown out of the Garden of Eden because we ate from the Eitz Hadas. You follow? You remember this?
Yeah.
Right? I hope not.
Wait, what was the question? I thought you said, do you remember this?
Right. You don't remember doing it. You remember reading about it.
Reading it, yes.
Yeah. I'm just joking with it. Right? So why are you thrown out the Garden of... You can't be in the Garden of Eden and have eaten from the Eitz Hadas. This really relates to Purim. Because das is what you learn from experience. Right?
It's interesting you're using that word again, because she says that in the video you just showed us. She says, I knew God. I know
Right.
God more. Right.
Right. Exactly. That's how the word does, knowledge. But it's the knowledge you get from experience. Now she's entered the Garden of Eden because knowledge that you get through experience comes with resentment. Every child, when they're young enough, is in the Garden of Eden. If you can think back far enough in your life, right, you're 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, are already starting to fade a little bit, right? Everything's wonderful, everything's colorful, everything's lovely, everything's sweet, everything is, at some point it fades or it goes, it flips, but then we're all living in the Garden of Eden. What breaks the Garden of Eden is we eat from the tree of dust, tree of knowledge. We do something on our own. We make something, we try something, and it doesn't work. We ride a bicycle and we fall off. You can't ride a bicycle without falling off. So the experience of falling off creates a resentment. It's what is called in the Western world trauma. We're all suffering from trauma.
Not everybody's like that, though. I mean, I can tell you for sure, I had at least half my kids, when they were learning to walk, half of them did not mind falling down. They didn't even notice it. They got right back up and kept going. The other two, not so much. They didn't like falling.
No, so you see, what is the antidote to trauma is knowing, that's what Rachel Poland said, is knowing how much God loves me. If you know that your mother loves you while she's trying to get you to walk or ride a bicycle, there's no trauma.
I don't know.
She said that?
That's what she said. She said, when my son died, I felt God loved me. So there's no trauma.
As she said, she actually felt closer.
She felt closer, exactly.
And she was surprised.
She was surprised. Why did she feel that?
Because she said, just like in Job, she doesn't feel that it was a punishment.
Yes, but I believe why she felt it because it was in the land of Israel.
It's true. When you're there, it feels different.
Right, because
It
you're
really
building.
does feel different.
Because
We
you're
were on
building
the
the.
bus. Sorry,
Because
go
you're
ahead.
building the base of Mikdash.
Right.
You're on this path. You're on this journey where everyone's got their little role to play, a big role to play, whatever role to play. We're all on this. So when you're doing something to rebuilding the base of Mikdash, to bring God back into the world, so every bicycle, everything you fall down in is part of the process. It's all good. There's no resentment. That's why we drink on Purim, so we don't know. Ad shelo yada, until you don't know, until you've lost the dust. You lose the resentment, and then you feel God loves you, which is what you had when you were 3 years old. You're going back to the Garden of Eden. If you don't have that, if you don't go in the proper way through the doors of the base of Mikdash, through the doors of the Mishkan, if you don't go through the proper way, then there's a cherub there with a big sword, right, frightening you off. Scary. But you can go back in if you go back through the proper way.
Why is there a proper way?
What do you mean? Why is there a proper way? That's what we're supposed to go back to the Garden of Eden. That's our job. That's what we're here for.
Right, but why does one have to go in the direction of going through the Mishkan?
The mission is just laying out what you have to do to get through it. You first have to go through the Mizbech, the different things you have to go through, like the obstacles or courses to go through to get back into the Garden of Eden. But one of them is lose the resentments.
So in which part of the Mishkan do you lose the resentment? at the when you do the sacrifice?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. I would like to say that the first the first item course you have to go through is the mizbeach, but it's the copper mizbeach that you sacrifice your. It's very interesting. Rabbi Belsky talks about this. The mizbeach comes from the word zevach, which means to sacrifice, to slaughter. But there's no slaughtering done on the mizbeach. You kill the animal away from the mizbeach and then place it on top of the mizbeach. So Chazal come and explain, what are you killing on the mizbeach? The Yetzer Hara.
How does that happen on the mizbeach?
What do you mean?
I mean, you just said that there's no actual slaughter of the animal on the mizbeach.
But you put the animal on the
Put the
mizbeach.
animal, and then when you put the animal on the mizbeach, how does that slaughter the Yetzer Hara?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I'm sorry, my pay grade doesn't go up to that level. I don't know exactly how the experience would get you to do that, because it's very abstract for me. But you can witness it. In other words, when Rachel Poland says, "I felt God when I found out my son had died," the interviewer is shocked. She says, "How is that?" She's shocked, right? And Rachel Poland is shocked too. She doesn't understand it either. She just experiences it. You understand? We would experience it too. If we did it, we would experience it.
If we did what?
If we walked into the base of Mikdash, we put a cow on the mizbeach, you'd have the same feeling. You'd lose your Yetzer Hara. You lose your resentments.
So she just had sacrificed her
son, yeah. Right, but she had an experience that is the most delightful experience you can imagine, because she knows her son died for the sake of bringing greater meaning to all of humanity, to the whole world. He died Kiddush Hashem. She felt that. It's a great privilege to be able to go through something like that. Obviously, we don't want to have to go through it that way. You don't have to go through it that way. You can live Kiddush Hashem. You don't have to die Kiddush Hashem. But if you have the experience of Kiddush Hashem, you have that experience. The Hamas terrorists, may they all drop dead slowly.
I'm good with quickly, Rabbi. Quickly. May they drop dead quickly. I'm good with quickly.
Okay, quickly. I'm with you. You're right. They don't have that experience. Their mothers don't have that experience. That's not. Nobody is uplifted by their deaths.
No, they're not. They're only uplifted by the money they receive for their death.
Well, I wouldn't use the word uplifted, but the point is that you can't abstract the concept, because it's the same action, but it's a very different experience, because one is opening you up to God, and if God is there and in this experience, in this process, then you're going to have a tremendous experience from it.
And the very exact opposite. If you don't do it for God,
right,
then you're further going into the darkness, where you eventually lose your soul.
That's right. Exactly. Beautiful. Perfect. That's it. So
you don't do what for God?
What's that?
If you don't live for God, and if you don't sacrifice for God.
Right. Now you see from here an absolutely mind-boggling idea. which is the whole concept of Truma. See, if you read the Parsha, verse 2, verse 1, God spoke to Moses saying, Deber B'nai Israel, speak to the Jewish people, V'yakuli Truma, take for me Truma, take for me a gift. That is not only poor grammar in English, it's poor grammar in Hebrew too.
Why is it poor grammar for people that don't understand grammar? I think we're having fun now, Rabbi.
Very good. Very good. That's it. Now we're getting into the program. Good. Right? So I bet you, I don't know grammar either, but that's not how you would speak. You wouldn't say to me, take for me, when you go to the supermarket, take for me a dozen eggs.
You say, bring for me or buy for me.
Exactly.
But if everything is God's, you can't bring anything to God that belongs to God. You can take it from what he's given you and bring it back to him.
That may be true, but nevertheless, you don't say it that way. God should have said, the verse should have said, give to me a truma, a gift, not take from me a gift.
Take. What does the word take? Like there's a connotation to the word take.
Exactly. What's the connotation?
Take versus bring. If I would say to my kid, bring me that cup, rather than take for me that cup, it does sound very different. Bring me that cup does not sound very, I don't know.
So let me explain. You're perfect. You exactly got it. Right? You got it. Right? Just you're missing the words, but you got it. You see, you make dinner for your kids, not a regular dinner. I'm talking about Rosh Hashanah dinner, Pesach dinner, anything, right? Now, when you get grandchildren, it's even better. But nevertheless, you follow? I remember one of my kids wouldn't try a donut, right? For whatever reason, they used to be telling them to eat stuff that was, vitamins or vitamins, whatever you say, right, or healthy, or whatever, right? So donut didn't look very appetizing. So I said to him, listen, do me a favor, just do it. Now, who is he taking eating the donut?
For you, because he doesn't really want to eat it. You're just asking him to please do it.
That's right. So I'm asking him to do it for me.
Right.
You enjoy it for me.
Uh-huh.
That's what God's saying here. You're doing this. You're taking this for me. You're breaking the glass under the chuppah for me. You're going to have a great experience for me. You go and enjoy dinner. You can enjoy a donut, ice cream, roller coasters, vacation, marriage, children, everything for me. Because when you do it, when you go send your son in to the Gaza Strip to save Jewish children, right? I God get something out of it. I'm not saying, obviously I'm not God, right? But that's how God's saying it, because you get the most out of it. You'll get the most out of it if it's got a greater cause.
If you're doing it for God.
That's right. You see, dinner is so much nicer when you're making it for other people, even if you're eating it too. The people who eat the same dinner by themselves, even better, like go to their favorite restaurants by themselves, do not enjoy the dinner like you do. The Akuli, you take it because you will take more out of it if you're doing it for me. It's nothing different than everything else in the Torah. How you're going to get the most out of life, have a bigger cause. And if your life is falling apart, it's because you don't have a big enough cause.
Does that cause the person's chova?
That's right. That's exactly right.
obligation of what they're supposed to do in the world.
What you were built for. Exactly. Perfect. But that's going to take us off into the Mesilas Yesharim. But that's going to go on a whole new tangent.
So that's what the Mishkan is the representation of our chova.
In general, everybody's got a different role to play. There were many different people. Everybody had a Batsala. Everybody had a different part to play. It needed a lot of people doing different things, but everyone's part of the jigsaw puzzle that make it all work. We've all, like this Hirsch, he was part of the puzzle.
Yes, but we're missing a very key part of this, which I feel like we touched upon, but not entirely, which is it says, every man whose heart motivates him.
Right. If you don't, exactly. Because if you don't feel it, the same two people are learning Torah, but one's doing it because his father's going to beat him if he doesn't learn Torah. And the other one's doing it because this is connecting to God and he's finding the mysteries of existence and finding his purpose. It's a different thing. The same thing that two people building the state of Israel, and one is doing because he loves it. You see this with the hostages. They're going through, they came out, a lot of them coming out better off than they went in. More inspired, more enjoying life, right? They're not coming out like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. This is not the Holocaust. You didn't see that when the people coming out of Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen, right? And Treblinka feeling inspired. They didn't have that experience. They were lucky to be alive. And most of them had tremendous resentments for the rest of their lives. These people come because they all feel that this is all part, and it is. Israel has shifted to a different country now. The Jewish people are a different country. The whole world recognizes that this event changed the world.
But they really don't. I mean, they might recognize it on a subconscious level, but on other levels, they're still continuing in the same way, I think.
Because they don't have a language. They don't know how to say it. They don't know how to talk about it. But the fact that it's the front and center news of everything, the first was a point that Netanyahu made. The first foreign leader that he met was Netanyahu. It's front and center in his issues that he's dealing with, even though technically speaking, from a purely American centrist view, Israel is a tiny little problem. It's not a big deal, but that's not how the world sees it, and it's certainly not how Donald Trump sees it. And it's not how the whole world is coming to, for reasons they cannot explain, that this is the center of the world. The whole world has shifted now. It's a whole different game. And a lot of people don't realize what the game, what the new rules are. They haven't figured it out. But this is a shift because the numbers don't add up. You know, as we understand it with the Holocaust, it was at 6 million. But on the scale of human tragedy, it's not really such a big deal. I mean, any one person is a big deal, no question. But, you know, these kind of things that happen all the time in the world. So why is it shifting? They don't understand it. We understand why it's shifting.
Do all of us understand it?
You and me, we understand. Because this is stepping one step closer to the Mashiach, to the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash, to establishing the state of Israel under proper meaningful Jewish law. It's a whole different game. It's changed everything. So you and I understand it, but the whole world doesn't understand it. I mean, you and I understand it. I mean, my understanding is not very, very good these days, but nevertheless, we understand it more.
In other words, we're seeing that this is the path that's leading us into the time of Mashiach.
Right.
Sorry.
And the hostages understand it. They get it. Now here you see a very, very important point, which is the whole point I'm trying to get to, which is there's no such thing as abuse in a giving relationship, in a giving life. V'yikuli truma. If you take for yourself, from me, you'll never feel abuse. You go back into the Garden of Eden. The lessons you learn in the process, just like your kids do not feel abuse, do not feel resentments, which is what abuse is. They don't feel abuse, they don't feel resentments because they know you love them. So if you understand that everything we're going through is the Almighty's love, it's from the Almighty, and He loves you more than anything, then you won't feel abuse, you won't feel abandoned, you won't feel resentment. Resentment only happens because you don't feel you should be going through that, which is was a common experience of the survivors of the Holocaust. We don't feel that. We don't have that experience this time around. It's mind-boggling.
I'm trying to square that away with a lot of the feelings that I pick up from people. I don't know if that's entirely true.
Well, in America, yes, it's entirely true. Your point is absolutely true, right? That people don't feel that because they're walking around with resentments. That the whole woke movement was about that, because they all understood you've got to get rid of the resentments if you're going to find happiness. But they said the way to get rid of the resentments is to stop the judgment. That's like the same way the communists thought they could do it. If the reason why we're unhappy is because one person's got more money than you. So if I take everyone's money away, then you've got nothing to be resentful. You won't feel bad about yourself.
Nah, a person who resents in general will find something to be unhappy.
That's exactly the problem with the whole woke movement. You're 100% right. But that's the America we live in, is they think if you've got no pain, you'll be happy.
It seems like pain is the necessary step to get to the next level,
Say it again?
It seems like pain is the necessary step to get to the next level. In other words, if there needs to be a change in your life, you have to go through pain in order to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily use the word pain, but you have to go through you have to go through a trauma. See, it's a very interesting thing. It says that the Torah begins in chesed and ends on chesed. What's the chesed that it begins with?
Hashem clothing Adam and Chava.
Right, not creation. Rabbi Palatnik points out it's not creation because you need someone to receive the chesed.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can't give chesed. It says it's also to give chesed to someone who hasn't got das, who doesn't have an experience. Right? So you see, you can't do chesed with a tree. If you have a goldfish and you do chesed up with it, you'll kill it. A goldfish eats a certain amount. If you do any more, it will die. If you water the plants too much, you'll kill them. Mm-hmm. Everything gets exactly what it needs.
Mm-hmm.
You follow?
Mm-hmm.
To get chesed and to give chesed, you need a human being. What does the human being need so he gets chesed?
What does a human being need so that he gets chesed? He has to have a need.
Where does the need come from?
God places it in. Isn't that the Borei Nefashot Rabos V'Chesranan? God creates that need within you.
That's true, but you have to recognize the need. What was the need that Adam had that God came and solved?
He felt naked.
And what did Adam do to fix that problem?
He hid.
He did something before that.
He tried to covered themselves with the fig leaves.
Right. You try to make clothes out of fig leaves. You ever try making clothes out of fig leaves?
No, I don't like those kinds of creative things. I know some people do, but not me. No, thank you.
Really? You know people that do it? Really?
No, like people can make baskets out of straw, whatever.
Yeah. Right, but not clothes.
No, people can make anything out of. Like, have you seen these like survival videos? I watched them a time or two when the kids were young, and it was during COVID early days, where they make like out of like bark and clay and whatever. They make like a little hut in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the forest.
Right.
It's like that. There's people can do that. It's
Right.
It's time consuming, but it's not something I'm interested in. No, thank you.
No, that's true. But you see, making clothes out of leaves is going to be a disaster.
Time consuming.
Not just time consuming, it's just not going to work very well.
Yeah.
You see, what's the chesed is picking your son up off the ground after he falls off the bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
You got to mess up. The chesed is helping them pick themselves up again. That's the chesed. Adam has to eat from the eitz of dust. He has to realize he's naked. He has to make clothes, and then God comes and clothes him.
Some of us just never realize, Rabbi. We're still sleeping. We're on the ground. We've fallen, and we're sleeping. We have no idea.
That's true.
Just are sleeping. Now I understand why the Chadodi says, "Wake up, wake up, get up."
That's right. Very good.
Wake up unless you wake up.
That's right. Wake up and enjoy yourself.
You're not realizing it. You're in the dust. You have no idea.
Right.
You're covered in dust and you're sleeping. You have no idea. So wake up, shake it off, and get up. Arise already.
Beautiful. Very good. Exactly. That's what it's all about. Wake up, enjoy yourself. Your might is taking care of you. He's going to clothe you. He's giving you everything you need. Welcome to the Garden of Eden. It's fun in here.
So then, if that's the case, what was Mitzrayim? They weren't having fun.
They weren't having fun. That's true. So what are you asking me?
I'm saying, if that's the purpose of life, to have fun from the Torah perspective, that wasn't having fun for them.
That's true. That's true. I'm not quite sure what your question is.
I'm not getting it. If you're saying that that's the lesson, but it's not always the lesson. Like, that's not always what you're expected to be feeling or doing, or whatever word we want to use here, right? Like, I understand why at this point that makes sense. This lesson of having fun makes sense, but just, what is it? A month? 2 months? How many months is it since they left Egypt here?
Well, Parsha Truma is not giving us a time frame.
Whatever the case might be, the point is that when they were in Mitzrayim, they couldn't have this kind of fun. So they were there for a certain purpose, and they were going through something, and they needed to go through it. And that wasn't fun. In fact, God didn't want it to be fun, right? Otherwise, why make it so miserable?
Right. So
and yet there was a purpose to that too. You told us that they had to learn a lesson there.
That's true.
There's no way to have the fun unless you learn the lesson.
Well, this goes back to I'm reminded of a fascinating exchange between Joseph and the butler and the baker. Joseph comes into the prison one morning and he says, "Why are you sad?" Right, you remember this?
Yes.
Right. Now this is a very strange thing because they're in a prison. Rabbinics 101. You don't walk into a prison and say, "Why are you depressed?" Right?
Unless you're Joseph, right?
What's that?
Unless you're Joseph.
Well, I mean, even more Joseph, we should understand, like they're in prison. Not only that, but there's one thing like to be in prison, but there's another thing when you're used to the great life. They were coming out of the palace. They were living the epitome of an incredible existence, the best life you could possibly have. And now they're in the pit of existence. A prison in Egypt 4,000 years ago must have been a terrible place to live. I mean, you can't imagine it. I can't imagine it. Right? So he comes in one day, this is why you said. So you see from here what? The number one, you can be in a prison in all those conditions to be happy. And Joseph must have been happy.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, that you're obligated to teach people in any situation they're in how to be happy. In other words, he's asking them why you said, meaning I already told you that no matter what the situation is, you can be happy. He was under their care. So he must have been teaching them how to be happy. So when he comes in and he sees them sad, he's like, why are you sad? Now, he didn't know that they had the dream. That's what they say. We had a dream last night that was very disturbing.
Yeah, but this is Yosef's second time. In other words, Yosef can do that this second time because the first time he was in a pit, because it's the exact word that the Torah uses. The first time he was miserable and he was crying and he didn't want to be there, right? It wasn't until after that he realizes that God's with him that he's able to be happy in a pit. So he had to go through his own Mitzrayim the first time around before he could appreciate this part, which I guess is his Truma.
That could be. It doesn't say whether he was sad or happy. But
well, he was crying for his brothers to take him out.
That's true, but that doesn't preclude you being happy. It could be you're right. I'm not arguing with you. That's a good shot on what's going on there. So he had to learn it too. Maybe everybody has to learn it. That's true. But it's time to learn it.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
All right, good.
All right, I get it.
All right, fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, wait. What's the beginning and the ending, Rabbi?
Oh, very good. Yeah,
yet.
every parsha begins and ends on the same thing, right? So it starts with Truma, right, and ends with the pegs.
Mm-hmm.
Yated, which means the peg or the foundation.
Okay.
Right? So what's the foundation?
What do you mean for the Mishkan? What's the foundation?
The foundation of life.
Oh, well, everything has to be based on a perspective of serving God, of like there is a purpose that God has
There's
created.
a purpose, right? Exactly. Right.
Oh, so you're saying the beginning is take from me a portion from your heart, so to speak, and then it ends with the foundation from a physical perspective.
Well, I wouldn't say from a physical perspective, but the foundation of the Mishkan are these pegs. These are the foundation. This is what keeps it all up. Just this tiny little peg that keeps the whole thing up, which is this small, seemingly small little idea that keeps everything going. It's that small little concept that's so small that Rachel Poland can't articulate it. It's this little truth that if you live with it, makes everything wonderful. And if you don't live with it, everything is a disaster.
But then how do you interact with people that have that perspective, that don't have the truth, that are still living in the lie?
So you become the light. They will see you and they will go, what is it? How come you have it? It's an interesting thing. I'll tell you an interesting story. So I was talking to this guy who was working on my videos, and he's in India, right?
Uh-huh.
Nice, very nice guy. And he's in India. He's got no connection with other people. I think he said to me, he's never met a Jew, nothing. So after we go through the whole process of how to make videos, he starts asking me, can I ask you some questions about Judaism? Now, he's in India. There are over 1 billion Indians, and the Jews represent less than 0.1% of the world's population. But we've got his focus. He's thinking about us because we got the secret. We have the understanding. We and to the degree we have it, we're a light to the world. All these hostages, all these people coming out, they're on every TV. The whole world wants to hear from them. If you have this understanding, you'll shine too. You do shine.
I don't know. I've had very weird experiences. Very weird experiences. I've met people that sort of like, you could say they've sort of, at one point of their life, they've given up.
Yes.
And when I come across these people, for some reason, they have this need to tear me down. Yes. I can't understand it. It's illogical to me. Illogical.
No, because they want to justify their reason. They want to. That's what anti-Semitism is. They've given up, and Jews don't give up. So they're annoyed because the Jews prove that you don't have to give up. You can go through all of this and not be resentful, not give in to hate. And the Arabs can't stand it, and the Palestinians can't stand it even more.
It's not pleasant going through these experiences.
For who?
For me. It's not pleasant. How do I avoid even having them?
It's true.
It's like, do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how do you deal with it?
Now you're asking a tough question.
I really it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable. 100%. 100%. That's a toughie.
All right, so let's get some Torah wisdom here. What does Truma teach us?
You stumped me. Yeah, that's been a problem for Jewish people for a long, long time. Okay, you give me homework.
All right, Rabbi.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
All the best. Take care.